thank you for all coming to the Tuesday, September 17th, 2024, Davenport Public Library Board of Trustees meeting. Thank everyone for being here today. Got a quorum of the board. Michael, Joe, Jerry, Malvika. So I would also like to recognize our library director, Jeff, our other staff members who are here, Jennifer Williams, Casey Shipley, and Tracy Moore. And then I also want to recognize Hillary Tedder, friends of the president, who's here. So with that,
Tom, there's also a couple of other people in the room.
oh, I'm sorry.
Steph Marvin is here. She's our customer services supervisor. And then Alderwoman McGinnis is here as well.
Oh, I'm sorry, I mismarried.
Not a problem, Steve.
Okay.
I'm sure.
I'm trying to do better at this. So the first order of business is the consent agenda. We have a motion to approve that. Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second? Second. Call the roll. Honey?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Michael? Malvika?
Yes.
Amanda is out here. And myself is a yes. So that passes. Now public comment. Not seeing anyone. On to reports, communication, friends.
Yeah, we have surveyed our current members, wanting to get some feedback on why our current donors are donating to us. And some of the biggest takeaways were primarily that they want to know more about what the Friends is doing. They want more specific communication to make it more clear what's coming from the Friends. And also that most of our members are giving just for the joy of giving. So that was great to hear. We're using the survey results to continue revamping the program, and we'll be doing a bit of a relaunch later this year or early 2025, with a big thanks to Tracy for all of her hard work. We're making progress on planning a 2025 fundraising event. Maybe we'll have more details next month, but certainly soon. And lastly, we're close to finalizing a new board member orientation packet that the executive committee has been working on with a lot of help from library staff. That's everything. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you. And then into committee reports, finance.
Basically, we are on schedule. If you'll notice, one of the big ones that's gone through already is software costs. We're at 99% on that. I'm assuming there was a big buy, and that'll pretty much hopefully be it for the year.
Yeah, in general, that's primarily what has occurred the last couple of cycles.
Okay.
We are going to request from the city an increase to that line item as well. The case request will be over $10,000, and that process will be beginning. It's already started, but that'll happen in the next couple of months.
Okay. I will ask one question on it, on the expenses. What was the between the covers rare books purchase for $4,500 last month?
That's something we have to check and get back to.
Okay, it was on the last page of expenses. No,
Oh,
the expenses keep going.
oh, I get it.
Lexi, what is max? Maybe, is that what Catherine ordered, maybe for acquisition?
I don't recall, I don't know, sorry.
It was materials.
We'll research that one and get it
Okay,
back to the board after this meeting.
Okay. Anything else? Personnel? Okay. It's always nice to know that we don't need to have any of those discussions. Advocacy, I'll be good.
I don't have much to add, just to share with you all that at the SAU library, we have shared about the library card sign up month and the various fun things that the library is offering if we use the library card in the community. And our reference librarians or information specialists, as one would call, are letting people know how it's important to be a part of the local library system. And that's all from me, Tom, and all of you.
Thank you. Director's report.
Thanks, Tom. Before you, there is a report, a couple of things to call out, and draw a highlight to. The first is the team that was led by Meredith Willett, our technical services supervisor, spent the last probably 6 months doing some research on how we currently process our library materials and see if we can identify some areas to streamline that process and also make the user experience a little bit better. And they came up with a set of recommendations which we implemented actually yesterday for the first time. So all new library materials added to the collection are going to have what we're referring to as the simplified processing, which is essentially not a lot of information on the cover, obstructing key information for patrons. So they're still clearly marked as library books, and they'll have the call number on the spine still. There'll be markings all over on the inside. We're not too concerned with any issues related to that. We think it's just going to be an overall better experience for patrons, especially spotlighting new materials that we have on display. And in some cases, it actually obstructed information that was critical to use that material. For example, puzzles. If there's not a poster and you're trying to create a puzzle, if we're covering it up with a bunch of stickers, you can't actually see what the puzzle image is supposed to be you're creating, as an example. Thank you to everybody that was able to make it out to the community center grand opening. It was great for that to come to fruition, and we're excited to start partnering, or to continue our partnership with Parks and Recreation in that new space. We were able to also get striping added to that parking lot to make it a little bit safer for pedestrians, especially with the walk between the two buildings. For the first time we had this crosswalks there before. Joseph Holcomb, our facility services supervisor, worked closely with a couple of other employees and Dearborn Community Schools for the Workforce Experience Program, and we're excited for that. So that will bring a student from Davenport West to come and help out with some routine tasks, basically straightening a few things, a little bit of cleaning here and there at Paramount. The leadership team had their annual development day last week. That was at the Quad City Botanical Center, and we got a tour of the new Rock Island Public Library branch and also a team building activity. Feedback on that was very positive. We were able to have some good discussions on understanding conflict management and resolution. So we're excited about that. Call out to Tessa Wallace, our marketing coordinator, who received a scholarship and a stipend to attend a marketing conference. This is specific for libraries. It's the only one in the nation. And she was going to be able to go to that. And we're really excited for that, which is going to be really cool. Summer reading challenge ended, and we had over 1,500 participants. A really great program. A lot of positive reception, a lot of fun. We did get a couple of surveys out to the community for feedback on the program, and we'll be briefing on that and see if there's other areas for improvement. Our first graders made over 200 return visits to the library from April until the end of August, and that was a really great opportunity to see from the photo here for the twins that won that staycation.
Thanks.
Today is National Voter Registration Day, and at all 3 libraries in our lobbies, you'll see some individuals that are there partnering with St. Ambrose to get people registered to vote. So that's exciting. I did present, I represented the library as a candidate for the city administrator finalists at Vicky last week, and that was a great event. One thing to point out on that is that city staff did not receive the candidate buttons that they had ordered. So they actually came over to Maine and got into our makerspace, and they used our button maker. And we were able to provide buttons for the candidates for that activity. And so we're excited to be able to help out our colleagues in that area. And a couple of upcoming programs are listed on that last page or two. Iowa's Richest Family History, 100 Years of Contributions is going to be really good. That's September 26th. The Teen Murder Mystery, Panic in the Library is going to be really fun. That's October 14th. And then Queer History and Why It Matters here for everybody on October 14th at Easter. And I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody has.
A question, if you have a comment, kudo on revamping the stickers that were on the website. Never understand why the library had to go. Sometimes it was more of a problem than others, but.
Yes. There were a couple that we came across where it actually changed the title. There was a sheet, the name of one title, I think it was called Sheet Set, and it was covering up the S, so like he said.
It's just, they used to have to be in that location because of the whole self-checkouts and where the barcode scanner was.
I remember because I asked about it. That was what I was told. Glad you found this one.
Thank you, Jeff. Council liaison, Marion?
Yes, so I knew, that we had some certainly personnel vacancies, and so our new city manager started August 29th, and he's already contributing very well. Our new county city attorney, I beg your pardon, started August 29th. So his name is Sam Huff, and he was a prosecutor. He worked at John Deere, so he was from this area, or he's from this area, so he was last at John Deere. So anyway, so that he started. Did I say September? I'm sorry, I don't think I recovered from the holiday. He started August 29th. So we went through the process last week of interviewing final candidates, for city manager. And so we hope to have an announcement very soon on that. So that would be another big step as well. Main Street Landing, which I tell you about because it's downtown and close to, the main library. That part moved again. This time it was an 8-2 vote. So it was a little more positive than it's been. We seem to, anything downtown sometimes to me seems to battle for it for some reason. So in any case, the other thing that is coming to council this week is a code of conduct for the council. In the difficulties and challenges that we've had over the last year or so with some behavior of some electeds, it appeared to be not a very effective way to manage bad behavior that didn't correct itself. And it was left to staff to have to deal with that. Now that was despite sit down saying, don't do this anymore. It just didn't matter. It happened anyway. And so then a discussion arose about we need to manage ourselves. We can't expect staff to take the burden of this and become targets in some cases and all that. It's just not fair. It's not right. So this code of conduct seeks to address that, and that is on the agenda this week. You can download it if you're interested from it's in the materials for this week's committee of the whole, and then it'll be voted on next week. It was brought to us. There was a team of people from the council who worked on it this summer. We saw a draft in July. We had input, and now it's come back for vote. So that is happening. And then there is a discussion today. There's been some discussion at council about the changes in the council meeting procedures in terms of the number of minutes people are speaking, public with business section of the meeting. There's very, very split opinions on if it should, what should happen. But that is for discussion on our management update today, and that may be coming as well to council for a vote. So there isn't a lot of material right now on that, but I will, there was a survey done last January that all the people on council had before the decision was made to change it. And it looked at about 10 different cities and how they dealt with this. And Davenport by far was the most sort of wide open, have at it city in terms of the number of minutes, how often, all this stuff. It was just, it was very, very different. And it's interesting to have someone come from a city and criticize us for the time when their city only allows 2 minutes. So yeah, it's kind of really. So in any case, that will be coming probably for a vote as well. We're kind of right now in a, like our agenda for council meetings, or this particular one is really pretty thin. There's just not a lot of, we've been, voting on a lot of big things, but this 2 weeks is a bit more kind of quiet for some reason, and that's just the way things cycle through. And then finally, I was involved, as I was, with the select committee for the city manager with a new FIGI director, the FIGI. So there's candidates here this week for that, and hopefully a decision can be made quickly. Michelle left, and I think it was about 6 months ago. She left she went back to Michigan to be with her family. So that will be a new cohort or person for you to meet, and so that, hopefully that will move forward as well. So that's everything for me today, unless somebody has any questions. Yes.
Well, one comment, one question, and it's probably not very relevant to the library meeting, but comment you made about the Main Street landing and stuff in the Board of 82. I think I was at the last council meeting when that was voted on. And I will have to say there were some pretty good comments made about whether that should really be the city's highest priority, and I'll say no more than that.
I understand.
But I did want to express that that's not always everybody's position.
I agree.
I have a quick question that might relate to library. Is that, do you know anything about the status of the FIGI exterior lighting?
Yes. I thought Leah was coming in late September, but I kind of lost whether that may have been canceled. I think going into, you'll see it going into next year, and there was some discussion about making that when they come to start testing it and to build it, because it's a process of building it once it's there, is making it sort of a public engagement event, not a people show up and suddenly it's there, but that people can sort of observe the process. He's a very engaging person. I had an opportunity, there was an event that the public was invited to sometime back when he was here, and he's really engaging and not, you think artists, maybe sometimes they are, but yeah, you seem very eager to interact and comfortable with people and all that stuff. So. And by the way, I'll just say Main Street Landing is not tax dollars. You said to the staff, go find the money. They went and found the money. It's not your tax dollar or whatever. So, so in any case, thanks.
Any other questions for Marion?
Marion.
Yes, ma'am.
Marion Malavika, just out of curiosity, again, this is not a library question, but this is a FIGI question. And as we are interviewing for the CEO, director of the FIGI, and are we including younger adults in the interview panel?
The panel I was on today was not what I would call, there were a couple of young, what I would call young people, but I'm 74. I don't know what does young mean, but I don't know if they're doing public panels in that way. So I can't really, but I have this much view of it. So I'm part of the board, and I am not part of the committee, but I am part of the board.
I was just curious. Curious because when they had the DPD chief interviews happening, there were 2 school students that were invited, and that was momentous, and that's what we need when it's an art institution, and that's why I asked. But that's curiosity. Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Okay. Any other questions? All right. We move on to old business. Discussion of administrative leave policy, section 4, benefits of leave. I think everybody should have gotten that, the various pages of that in your packet. You want to start going through that just one by one, Jeff?
Yep, I think that would be great. Again, this is a continuation of what we've been working on the last couple of months, just breaking it out. So we're doing it section by section. This month is section 4, which covers benefits and leave. Next month will be the final sections, which will be 5 and 6. And then in November, we'll be able to bring the entire administrative policy to the board for final action at that point. So this is just discussion only. 4.1 is training, and the title is going to be adapted just a little bit to be professional development. So just a little bit broader than just training in scope. 2 provisions added at the beginning and a couple of sequence changes. Number 5, for example, is eliminated because it's covered in, or is added up into number 3. And just a couple of other changes that are highlighted in red on that.
I had one clarification question. Under certification, continuing education, number 6. I'm just curious, leadership librarian positions that require a master's degree are required to maintain certification with the state of Iowa upon employment. What is that process? What do they have to do?
You have to complete 30 hours of continuing education every 3 years.
Is that something that everybody knows already? That's pretty standard.
I have a question and a comment. Your staff enrichment program. Is that a specific thing, the staff enrichment program?
It is.
So it's a title of a program that, okay, all right, thank you. And then under provisions number 2, that number 2 sentence is a bit awkward. So I'd suggest perhaps reformatting it to say something like the library will attempt to prioritize professional development for its employees within its limited budgetary resources.
Okay, any other comments about section 4.1? 4.2?
4.2 covers professional organization membership. The changes on this and provision number 1, that strike through for the final sentence is essentially just brought over from the ASCII language with our union, and it's unnecessary. To provide that notification. I believe that's the only change to this policy.
Any discussion?
I had a question, but then when I reread it this morning, it actually makes perfect sense, so.
Okay.
Okay. 4.3?
4.3 covers the sick leave, and in provision number 4, also related to ASCII.
I guess my question in this would, I would assume all this would be in agreement with union contracts, you know, how they lay out, you know, how the league program is set up.
Yes, that's what AFSCME is, that's the union.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just asking to make sure that that is how this is laid out.
You mean it matches?
Pardon?
Do you mean, does it match the?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm assuming that it would.
The things that are the same in the union contract, they align.
Okay, all
It's
right,
the same verbiage and everything else.
okay.
It's identical.
I guess I just wanted to make sure. Okay. Any other comments?
Well, it seems like the number should be at sick, this is just a Scrivener, library sick line at with the number at least 1 hour before they are scheduled to work.
I had the same.
Oh, okay.
In point 1, the last 2 sentences, library that requires substantiation, limits, et cetera, et cetera. The next sentence, employee may be required to present a position statement. If you take a look at 6 and 7, they say the same things basically, don't they? I was wondering if is there a reason that we're repeating these things? Do we need to emphasize them? Or are we clarifying in 6 and 7 things we've already stated in 1? It seemed like there was some redundancy. I wasn't sure.
One says may and one says will. 6 and 7, when I read it, has to do with serious illness, incapacitation, extended sick leave. The other one says may, I think, may be required. So I think that's what I read is the difference. I think they're 2 different things. But the may is sort of more flexible. The will is if you've been out for a long time, it is expected. Well, the second one's may. Although maybe physical examination, but the 6 is a will. So you seem to do more with long term. That's 2, that's all.
Yeah, that was the intention of the 6 and 7, because it's beyond just regular sick leave.
Okay, so this is for the serious cases, that's what it is. Okay, all right. And then I have another question, just the information at the bottom of the first page. C, such appointments will not be unreasonably denied. It's an interesting word, unreasonably. What does that mean? And just for my own
Which one is it?
This is the bottom of the first page.
2C.
It says, for such appointments will not be unreasonably denied. And I'm saying, gee, what does unreasonably mean? And I'm not questioning, I'm not saying it could be that, I'm just saying, I don't know what that means. And for both us, as a staff administrator, and for an employee, is there a
Kind of
continuum?
meant to mean that we're going to try our best to make sure that we improve most requests that we can, unless there's some extenuating circumstance. I think originally it's why I did that.
Okay, because it comes up again later in another part. All right. Just staff and administrators, be prepared for people to question your reasonableness. Okay.
Anything else?
It's like a
Jared?
good question, our scientists, but the maximum accumulation of 960 hours, is that, they can carry that over from year to year up to 960 hours total accumulation? I'm not sure.
That's correct. Basically, yeah.
Okay, does that have any value upon their departure or anything?
So, you're very well, I didn't hear what you said.
Well, I just wondered that 960 hours, if they retire or depart the library system, does that have any value to them, or is that purely
906, not to time.
set up?
Any other questions? We'll move on to 4.4.
So 4.4 is vacation leave. And the changes on this are clarification on number 3. Instead of stating full-time employee, it's a leave eligible position, because there are some part-time employees that do receive those vacation leave benefits. And number 19 on the last page, we're recommending removing the 4 weeks notice for any member of the leadership team to just be 2 weeks notice with everything. That's kind of best practice at this point.
Any questions?
I'd like to work here.
keep punctuation, leave eligible should be hyphenated.
But these are in line with, because it's under the city, right? These are in line with city admin policies.
Okay, do you have any comments or suggestions?
So, common curiosity, as former federal employee, is there any opportunity here we used to be able to donate annual leave to somebody that used all their sick leave up in a particularly critical situation? I don't want to start something newer, that's probably again a policy of the union or something, I don't know. I'm just kind of curious. I've never thought of those sorts of.
Not quite for sure.
Yeah. It was a good policy though.
Yeah.
You
Couldn't
can't do
donate
any-
sick leave.
You couldn't do anything within the library that they can't do with the city, is that correct?
As far as,
As having a special, say if you didn't have that and you wanted to donate. I guess I'm asking, are you under the city admin policies? The city has admin
That's a
policies.
good question, that's what I'm kind of wondering.
Right.
so we would follow the for donation, yeah, we would follow the city.
If they had.
Guidelines, yeah.
I guess.
All these
There's-
guidelines are
Yeah.
consistent with section city.
Yeah, we're trying to maintain consistency. Again, as a reminder for this, city we are city employees, and the city of Davenport has administrative policy. However, the library board of trustees is the governing board for the library. And so you have the authority to establish other policies, and you establish policies primarily in the form of public policy, which addresses most of the use of the facilities and our services that impact the public. And then there are also these administrative policies that we're doing now as well. And these ones augment what the city has done. So they will reflect what is currently in the city, or if the city did not address something that might have been specific to the library, that's addressed here.
So Jeff, and I'm not saying that we would want to, but if we did want to consider a policy to donate sick leave, would we have the authority to do that? It's not something. that the
Probably,
city
we would
does.
just have to work through the budget process then as well, because there would be a budgetary component to that. And the way the city council is structured is they give the money, they set the budget for the library. And once we receive that money, then you can determine how to spend that. So conceivably, there might be.
Not saying no, I'm asking the question to see what our authority is.
I guess my question really had more to do with just what are our limitations here, like the annual leave accumulation, or how much you're earning after so many years. Is that consistent with just overall a city employee thing, or do we have the liberty to modify that as a trustees?
Those are mostly consistent, although there have been union negotiations as well that have impacted that over the years.
That's kind of what I'm assuming.
And what I think Jeff is saying is that if there is say the library wanted to add something that was a richer, and this is very important to think about, and it's going to end up impacting the library's budget and costing more money, then you have less, because the city's probably not going to say, well, we're going to give you this much because now you've done this, you've given people 3 extra weeks of vacation or something.
That's what I'm trying
Does
to
that make
do.
sense?
is that-
Right.
No, that's what I'm going through.
I think that
because,
covers that.
I don't want to make working for the library so much more desirable than some other city.
Well, and in fact, it could hurt what the library,
Right.
because then it's
it
going to
worked
come
both
out
ways.
somewhere else maybe, so, yeah, that's all.
Any other questions? Okay. On to 4.5.
So 4.5 is the holiday leave, and the changes to this. Are not substantial.
Any questions?
I didn't have anything on this one, go ahead.
President's Day is more than one president that day.
Would it be the same for veterans?
No,
No,
ironically.
yeah.
Even though there's more veterans. than
No, they just
presidents?
don't use it properly.
I'd like to. Collected now, veterans. Somebody that presidents, yeah. We're talking about Lincoln, basically Lincoln and Washington.
That's right.
They get their day. Yeah.
Relation too, so that's.
When they're also, Christmas falls on a Sunday, Christmas Eve is on a Saturday. Do they get any days off at Christmas?
They get Christmas Day off, or they get Christmas Eve day off. Did I understand your question?
So if those fall on a Saturday and Sunday, do they get more? That's what you're asking.
Yeah, everybody will still get the day. It's,
Oh, okay.
legit.
Depends on, yeah, it just kind of depends. It might be a day in the week, or it might be, we close that Monday
Okay, that's what.
across the board.
Any other questions? Move on to 4.6.
So 4.6 primarily covers FMLA. And there were a couple of changes under 16 for bereavement leave, specifying that it's not just for funerals, so the employee can use it, and not just for a funeral. And does not have to be consecutive, so in other words, I don't have to take 3 consecutive days off. We'd like to work with the employees on what works best for them during their moments of grief, rather than forcing them to take 3 consecutive days off. If they rather, for scheduling purposes, others have 1 day off and then another day later, then we try to work with the employee for that.
Number 2, under general leave of absence, that last sentence there, should have an apostrophe.
Any other questions?
So we give, it says returning and returning. So the male in a couple can have leave for a child. Is that correct? Yes. It's the same type of leave that the female have. That was the policy. Okay. Yeah, because I sent you some stuff and I got it down. I gotta leave it to you guys to figure out. Yeah, all right, that's a nice one.
Anything else? Moving on to policy 4.7, inclement weather.
So 4.7, no substantive changes, but this addresses how we handle weather emergencies. We did branch out just a bit in provision number 6. We said for any other reason it was meant to address circumstances where we might end up using, say, water to the building for the day. If it's an hour or so, typically that's not an issue. If it's for the whole day, then we might have to close that particular building.
It is, again, number 7. The staff call list will be used to contact you. So oh, I'm sorry, it is.
It is.
I think it is sounds better, but that's okay.
For a policy, for sure.
Anything else? Moving on to 4.8.
So 4.8 addresses any kind of work injury and no substantive changes to this policy.
Paper cuts.
Paper cuts.
Any comments, questions? Okay. Jerry?
Actually, one quick question that I meant to ask. we have any job shadowing policy regarding to that, or is that kind of under the enrichment program?
That was covered as a
Okay.
And the final policy is 4.9. We recommend eliminating this policy as it's no longer relevant because there are no overdue fines, which was primarily the main benefit that an employee would receive by having a Denver Public Library card.
So that'll be part of the final process when we vote on all of them. Okay, good. Moving on to new business. We got a motion closing the library on Thursday, April 10th, 2025 for the annual staff development day. Jeff? Elaborate on that?
Yep, so this would be the annual in-service that we do for staff in April, and this would entail closing all 3 library buildings to the public so that our library staff are able to get together for that development day. This year, it's going to be a little bit earlier, 2 weeks earlier than usual, and we're coordinating with Bendor Public Library, our colleagues there, to have a joint in-service at an offsite location with them. And because it is a closure, we're asking the board of trustees for permission to close the library on that day.
Move to approve closing the library on Thursday, April 2025 for the annual staff development day.
Is there a second? Second. We have a motion and a second to approve closing the library on Thursday, April 10th, 2025 for annual staff development day. Call the roll. Amanda?
Yes.
Honey?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Malvika?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
My own vote is yes, that passes. Okay. The next item is the motion approving the 2026 business plan. Jeff, you want to run through that a little bit?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. So as a reminder for background for Iowa code and Denver Municipal Code, the library is allocated funding approved by the city council. And then the library board of trustees then decides how to best allocate those limited taxpayer funds in the form of our annual operating budget. Our budget is funded by a few sources. Number 1 is the general fund. Number 2 is the trust and agency fund. That's the fund that's established by the city for employee benefits and retirement. And we have a temporary fund through the ARPA fund as well, which is those federal stimulus dollars provided to the city in 2022 and allocated by the city council. All city departments are required to submit a business plan as part of the annual budgeting process. They usually do that in August or September for the next fiscal year. So this would be for fiscal year 2026, starting on July 1st, 2025, going through June 30th, 2026. The business plan goals are listed below. They are tied to our strategic planning, and there are some performance measures that are added for tracking purposes as well. And the library board of trustees, of course, also approved this business plan. And so that's what is presented before you today.
Any discussion?
Just a question, Jeff, how does this relate to the library strategic?
So most of the items that are listed, particularly goal 1, goal 2, and goal 3, are all directly from the strategic plan. Those are the 3 goals that are listed, the 3 big strategic goals that are listed. The caveat on this to point out is that we're trying to set this business plan for FY 2026, and we don't have a strategic plan that covers that year, because as you know, we're going to be going through that process in the coming months to set one in effect on July 1st of next year. We can cover this fiscal year, but we can't predict the future, so we decided to just roll with the existing strategic plan directives until we receive further direction.
The planning process, the city planning process allow you to go back and amend? Say you said, and you, well, we can do this to amend it.
It's a great question.
Maybe,
Yeah,
maybe
that's a
it
great
does,
question.
because budgeting starts so far out.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure others loop their planning cycles too.
Do we have a motion to approve the business plan? Okay, we wanna have a motion?
I make a motion that we accept the business plan as proposed.
A second?
I second.
We've got a motion and a second. Michael, got a question?
I was just curious, operating statistics, we had a drop of about 5,000 from fiscal year 23 to 24. And I'm just curious, because program attendance was up, other things were up. Was there something that happened? Did we have an arrangement with cards or whatever? Where did those 5,000 potential patrons go?
You're referring specifically to the registered card holders, the number of patrons, is that the
Right.
question? I just want to make sure I got it. Yeah. Annually, we'll do what we refer to as a purge of inactive card holders. And that might have been the reason for that. I'm not sure if there's any other
I do
conjecture.
know anecdotally, at least one staff member reached out to say a lot of the patrons they were purging were computer use only cards, which we have stopped doing as much of recently instead of giving out guest passes, just to streamline that process, get patrons computer access faster. So that might have had a lot to do with it.
That is 100%. Lexi has the correct answer.
So
That is exactly the right
so we really haven't lost patrons.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right, it's just that we were giving cards out differently and.
Correct.
that makes-
Yeah, what we would typically do when we had a patron that wasn't eligible to obtain a Davenport Public Library card, we would register for them for a computer use card, because we had a lot of patrons that will come in just to use our computers. And our previous policy was such that you had to have a card. So that's what we had done. We had a process and it worked, but there was a lot of friction points, as you can imagine, for somebody coming in just to use a computer to have to go through all those steps. So a year and a half ago or so, 2 years ago, we tweaked that a little bit so that now we have computer guest use passes. So there's no requirement to have a library card to use one of our library computers. And that's corresponding right there.
Will that become a column then as well for statistics?
Computer use cards, yeah. Shows the usage.
We're still tracking usage. You'll see that with the computer and Wi-Fi sessions. So we're still tracking usage of that in terms of statistical purposes, not what people are looking at on computers or how they're using computers, just that there was somebody that used a computer for this amount of time.
Any other question?
One question I see on the 26th business plan, the ADA accessible meeting room project, is that a relatively small scale piece of work, or is that something that larger renovation budget?
Yeah, good question on that. So right now, we have, as you know, 2 meeting rooms at Main. They're both on the lower level, and neither one is technically ADA compliant. So we're in the process of exploring how to change one of the former classrooms that we had on the first floor into a meeting room, and to call that meeting room A, and it would be ADA accessible. We believe we could do that with limited funds, at least for an initial conversion, and maybe it won't look super great initially, but at some point we do have that built into the capital improvement program with the city to make it nicer and have the whole range of resources for our community members using that space, including tables and chairs and the AV equipment as well.
Any other questions? Call for the vote. Valvita,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Amanda,
Yes.
Connie,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
I'll vote is yes. Passes. Next item on the agenda is a motion awarding the contract for the 2024 main library renovation phase 2 project to Swanson Construction Company of Bettendorf, Iowa. The amount of $271,125. Jeff?
Thanks, Tom. So there is a memo in your board packet that provides a little bit of context for this motion. Some background, as most of you are aware, we've been working for a number of years to renovate main library as part of the 50th anniversary of the Stone Building. And the initial phase of that was completed right around the COVID times. And that was an approximate cost of about $1.8 million. That included public and private partnership. And it resulted in new study rooms, a few more defined spaces, more furniture, relocating the main service desk and the sorter, and renovating several of the public restrooms, including some significant HVAC improvements. At that time, after that project completed, there was close to $500,000 that had been previously allocated by the board that was reserved for additional enhancements, and in particular for the exterior of the building, because we were not able to do any at that point. So now we're at that point where over the last year and a half, we've been exploring improvements on what to do for the exterior and the interior for that. And to that end, we did a contract with an architect, Leggett Architects, in June of last year. And then late last year, we had gone before the Airport Historic Preservation Commission to receive COA for making changes to the exterior. So now, fast forward a bit to today, and over the last 2 months, we went through a bidding process with the city, and we received 4 great bids, and we recommend going with this particular company as the lowest and most responsible bidder. Funding for the project has come through the Special Library Levy, CIP Project 2363, and there are 13 items that are listed here that discuss the improvements to the exterior and to the interior. I don't know if you want me to list all of them or not. It's going to be great though. The biggest is going to be able to get special collections up on the second floor so that everybody knows it's there and can see it. And then some improvements to the exterior, including relocating the handicap entrance from the side of the building, or the front side of the building, to actually in the front of the building.
Any questions? Comments?
And that is on this, I think that's on this.
Correct, yeah, so
Okay,
further
yes,
information,
it
it
is.
will go to City Council tomorrow for their cycle and next Wednesday as well.
Right.
It's always a weird process, because we're the one that approves it, and the City Council kind of replicates it.
Right, so, I can't imagine it being put on discussion. Are you planning to be there? Okay, I can't imagine it being put on discussion, so I would assume it would go into the consent agenda. That's not something that I could see the council having a big hoo-ha about, but you never know. But I don't think so. But, I can't say, but.
Yeah, if it did come to a head, that would be an interesting legal precedent that we have to explore.
Exactly. I'll point that out. People start. So
we don't want to explore that.
Right. It's.
One question I have is, when we're looking at working on the exterior of the building, when they were doing how we were planning for that, was there consideration of a change in the one-way system downtown so that the 4th Street facade would be whatever we have to do, because we're now going to have 2-way there instead of 1-way?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a couple of things in this that will address that, including the monument sign that'll be at the intersection of Main Street and 4th Street, as well as the landscaping improvements along that 4th Street corridor. Because right now it's kind of sparse.
Yeah, I would say yes.
Will the drive up return remain or?
We believe that's going to remain where it is. We don't have a good alternative on where that would go. The only option that would be viable would put considerable impact on staff, which would be placing it in a parking lot and then across the street, which means staff would have to cross Frogger style with a book truck and not get in multiple times a day to bring materials in and out with the weather. And that's not an area for the use of that particular book drop. We don't anticipate that being a huge issue. And with the way traffic will flow, people can still use it. They would just need to either pull just ahead or behind it, or they would have to reach over and roll down their passenger side.
The checkers option.
Sorry. Okay, real quick question, that's Taylor. Are we at a point yet where you have to worry about historic preservation weighing in or anything, like the fencing out front?
We did.
We did.
Yeah, we did go before the Historic Preservation Commission in the fall to receive that certificate of appropriateness. And the main concerns, that actual fencing, that you referred to, that metal black fencing was actually added in the 1990s to prevent skateboarders. And that's not, they didn't have concerns with that, but Michael might be able to answer that even better.
Right, at the commission review policies and everything conforms to the National Register. So there's no problem. In fact, enhancements such as the ADAs.
Is the signage included in the bid?
Yes.
Seems like a really good bid.
Yes.
It's a lot of work for less than I would think.
Can I ask who the other four or the other three were?
Yes, it is public record and it's on the city council packet. I don't recall off the top of my head the three bidders.
Sorry.
I believe Estes Construction was one of the four that responded. But I don't recall the other two. We can get that information to you.
I just don't remember seeing it on the bid list.
I'll follow up after the meeting.
Yeah, I'll look for it while we're in, I won't stop the meeting, but I'll try to pull that up.
So do we have a motion to, approve that?
I think there was already a motion.
Oh, okay, all right.
No, we hadn't on this one. Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve it.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion and second. Call for the vote. Amanda?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Alvika?
Yes.
Honey?
Yes.
My own vote is yes. That passes. Okay. And the next item is discussion of a special library levy funds. I think Jeff, you put a memo in here?
That's correct. So there is a memo in your board packet. This is just an information only at this point to provide comment on the special library levy. Does everybody have that memo? Okay. So as background, most of you do know, in 2023, House File 718 eliminated the special library levy. And that was the fund that was approved by Davenport voters back in 2003 to provide for enhanced library services and allow us to open both of our branch libraries. That was 27 cents per $1,000 in assessed value in property tax. It translated to approximately $1.6 to $1.7 million annually for the city. And that funded about 30% of the library's annual operating budget. So this last year, earlier in the spring, the ILA did advocate for the state legislature to change that Property Tax Reform Act, and they did not make any changes at that time. House File 718 did allow any affected city to continue to accept and collect that property tax for a 4-year fiscal year period. So that started with the current fiscal year that we're in now. It is scheduled to go away completely at the start of fiscal year 2029. The legislature at that time, though, did remove the requirement that future revenue required after July 1st, so in other words, FY 2025 on, no longer has to be earmarked or restricted to library services. So, in other words, the library is now only dependent on the city's general fund and must compete with other city departments for those tax dollars moving forward. So in the fall of last year, several of us, including Steve and Tom, met with city administrator at that time, Corey Spiegel, and CFO Mallory Merritt, to discuss the city's plans for that loss of the levy. And at that meeting, they did commit to keeping the levy amount whole for the library during this 4-year drawdown period. Our current FY 2025 operating budget does reflect that intention as well. At that time, city administration did indicate that there might be a possibility of some budgetary reductions in future years. That's entirely dependent on revenue. And of course, that would be a city council decision on where those reductions may come from if needed. They also did express that they would commit ARPA funding to the libraries to temporary ARPA funding positions on a year-to-year basis as long as that funding holds out.
Jeff, let's ask you to remind me which two positions those are.
Those are our early literacy coordinator and the library social worker. And those two positions, per ARPA guidelines, those have to be expended. The money has to be expended for that by the late 2026, in October, technically, it says. Since Ms. Spiegel is no longer employed by the city and the interim city administrator Merritt has submitted her resignation letter last month, I had requested a meeting with that interim city administrator Merritt, so to discuss this matter and to make sure that we have appropriate processes in place moving forward. So I was able to have that meeting with her, and she did express that the dollar amount was kept whole in FY 2025, and the intention will be to keep it whole in 2026 as well as 27 and 28 moving forward. In terms of what's remaining for the dollar amount that's in the levy, she expressed that about 600,000 of that was already restricted and accounted for, and about 1.1 million of the unrestricted funds still reserved or earmarked for the library. Per city policy, though, they have to keep between 17 and 25% back in reserves, and that's again a city policy. So they, at that point, she indicated the specific dollar amounts would be forthcoming after the annual audit is completed, which is usually by November. So I included her email that she sent in our packet, so we have that for the record. Since then, Casey was in contact with the city controller to discuss the specific dollar amounts so that we can determine what we would want to prioritize those spending on. And there's a bit of accounting parlance in here that essentially distills the total amount down to about $158,000. So this is for informational purposes only, and the finance committee may wish to consider engaging in further discussions with city administration, specifically regarding the accounting. I would recommend possibly in November if you're interested in doing that. It's a pretty significant change from the $1.6 million of pre-audit that's listed. 663,000 of that is the library's gift account, which we didn't know was in the levy, but for accounting purposes, that was apparently kept in there. I'm not sure exactly why. That could be part of the clarification that we might want to see.
Yeah, if I could, I guess speak as an accountant. She really knows how to talk in circles. Because that, pardon my French, that whole paragraph starting, it's a whole bunch of crap. You know,
So we would have
600,000
to.
here and
Right.
400,000 there, 225,000 here. The entire amount that was in, that's 101.7 million, was money that was accumulated in the fund that was for the library. And so we had always treated that as capital stuff. So like we obligated money to spend on the main library renovation. And so we can, that would still appear to me that's what that's available for. And yes, they want to have 17 to 25% for reserves, but it's a capital fund. So at some point, we spend it down and it just goes away.
Right, and I think that too. I think there, a few years ago, and it's like the 1.7 is not, it feels like they're applying, so the city requires of itself. The city had no money back, John, you remember these days, right? Back 2010, mortgage crisis, it was not good. So the city said, okay, we have to have a certain amount of reserve funds. And so that was 17%. And then most recently, because they were able to do that and there was funds left over, they raised it to 25. And it feels like to me, something that was like your savings account in a sense, right? It's like something you can spend down, got now tagged with, it's got to follow the same city guidelines. So I would, it needs to we need to find a way to unravel it out of that. And that might take council action to do, but I'm willing to help try to make that happen. I understand what the problem is. When I saw the email, I was like, at least we got through the funding will be maintained. But yeah, this is like taking it just doesn't make sense to me, quite frankly.
Well, I mean, I would revert back to, okay, we got $1.7 million.
Right.
Whatever, if the city wants to say 17% of it is reserved, okay. But, so next year, for whatever reason, the budget comes in and the city says, you're gonna have to take a 10% budget cut. We could say, well, no, we could take it out of there.
Perhaps so, yes.
That's
perhaps
exactly what we could do.
Right, so you could look at it as it may, but that needs to be clear and it needs to be spelled out, and whoever is there, whoever's around this table or any other table needs to understand that process. So
Yeah, we need to have conversations
Right.
with her.
Well, you won't have it with her because she's not here.
Well, yeah.
Yes, but you will have it with somebody, and I will love to be there.
What is the library's?
That's money that was given. Money that's been given to the library, if you look at the item and put it on, it's the miscellaneous revenue and expenses. I mean, some of these things that it's restricted for don't even exist anymore. The STEAM grant, that goes back to something that had to do with, and that's been many years ago. So, I don't get why this has to take it.
Yeah, the gift account never in the library letter. Library levy fund was always just by itself. And all the rest of that stuff was counted in city account.
And anything that was even in the levy prior to 718 should still be restricted, I would think. Clearly from the library. Shouldn't take any kind of a hit.
Well, hopefully we will start to have people in place.
Well, yeah.
I think it's very wise, though, that you had the meeting before the parties that were involved with discussions left, so that you could, so that there is some record of, whatever the rationale was, what it was, too. I certainly.
Okay, well, I guess at this point, maybe Joe and I, Jeff, and maybe whoever else might want to go have another meeting with the new city administrator to make sure we understand exactly how this plays out.
Right.
Okay? Anything else about that? The next item on the agenda is president's comments.
Did we vote?
We don't have to vote on that. I don't have any more comments other than what we just talked about. Guess we move on to board training.
Okay, well, thank you. I want to introduce Steph Marvin from our Customer Services Department, and she is supervisor. She's been with the organization. So, Steph, take it away.
I don't have a PowerPoint, I'm going to pretend I have one though. So I don't know if I should just sit at the table. Would that be easier for everyone? Okay. I'll just sit here, if that's all right. So our department has 15 staff. We have 5 part-time staff and then everyone else is full-time. And so the first thing, I just want to do a very short history on our department. So I'm going to talk specifically about our department, but it also follows national library trends too. So traditionally, our department would be known as the circulation department, and it was up until 2003. And generally, before 2000, the focus of our department was on clerical work. Whenever we were making decisions, we'd always kind of look through the lens of what are the rules, and it was more of a black and white kind of mindset. And also the mindset when I first started was kind of that we were the gatekeepers, that, you know, we were deciding who was going to get library cards and who wasn't going to get library cards based on those rules that were passed down to us. But then in 2003, because of some reorganization in the library, our department became the customer service department. And like I said, this is kind of a national trend, is that we really started focusing on customer service and providing really excellent service to our patrons. And that was the lens that we now use as we're making policies, as we're making just a decision when we're interacting with the patrons. What's best for this person in front of us? How can we help them? And now, instead of gatekeepers, I think of us as that we're the gateway to the library, because we are that first point of contact for patrons as they come in the library. We try to greet everyone who comes in, and then either we try to help them or we direct them to where they need to go, as far as being able to answer their questions. So a very basic framework, so you know what our department does. And this does not include everything that we do, but besides customer service, we work at the front desk. Like I said, we answer questions about library accounts. So what you have checked out, when it's due, if you owe any money. We issue those library cards, we check materials out if people don't use the self-checks, and then we also check in on the library material that's returned to us. So that's just kind of a very basic framework of what we do. One of the main things that I'm looking for with my staff is that looking for problem solvers. We troubleshoot technology like computers, personal devices. People ask us for help all the time. Connecting to Wi-Fi, using our Wi-Fi for printing. We show patrons how to use the scanner, the copier, the fax machine. We help enforce the behavior policy, and we really read between the lines when we're helping patrons, helping determine what is best going to help meet their needs. And then if we can't find the answer, we're gonna find someone who can. So we really don't want to say no to a patron. We might say, we can't help you, but someone else can. So that's always our motto. So we really know library cards. So we're the main department who issues cards. There's 12 different kinds of library cards. I'm not going to bore you with all the details. But we do sign people up for cards from Davenport, from other Rivershare libraries, from Illinois Quad City libraries, anywhere in Iowa, and also all over the US. So there's all those different rules and stuff to do with that. But that's just kind of a general idea of the different library cards that we issue.
Seth, would you mind giving
Yes.
an example of one or two? Because I think most of the board probably thinks we have one card.
Yes.
And you're not, she's referring not to like the design of the card,
Yes.
but kind of your privileges with the card.
Yeah, so like if you live in Davenport and you have a library card, you have like a full access adult library card where you can access all of our digital things, you can check things out. Kind of the full gamut. And then we also have like an interstate borrower card. When RiverShare changed in 2018, when we separated from the Illinois libraries, we had an agreement with the Illinois libraries that they could send their patrons over and they could use our library, and we can send our patrons to their libraries to use. So that's another example of art that we do. So I'm kind of going fast, and please interrupt me if you have any questions. So one part of our job that you don't really see is that check-in part. So any material that's being returned is going to go through our department. We have an automated sorter in each building, which is very helpful. We also manually check in a lot of the items too. And when things are being returned, we check for condition, we check for bed bugs, like any other kind of bugs. We make sure all the discs are in the AV cases, all the pieces are in board games, STEM kits, and we make sure everything gets routed to the right place.
I've been busted so many times.
Oh, no. It happens a lot. It happens, so it's no big deal. And then as far as the things in the library that we're at that need to be shelved, we make sure the things are on the carts in order, ready to be shelved, so that the shelvers can just take them out and shelve them. So our library does interlibrary loan. Up until April, we were using Mobius, which is a wonderful system, and we're doing some testing now to get back. They did a software upgrade, so right now we don't have access to them. But since May of this year, we've been borrowing library materials through Silo, which is the state library's interlibrary loan system. It doesn't interact with our system, so it's a lot more manual, and so it is taking a little more time, but my staff is doing a great job just kind of coming up with that process and doing all that work too. Our department also supports and collaborates with other departments. So for example, Youth Services has the 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten initiative, which is great. We sign a lot of people up for that, and we distribute the prizes. We make appointments for patrons to meet with the social worker or librarian. We make the library cards for the first grade visits, which is about 1,000 every year. We answer questions about our programs that we offer and get patrons registered, and we help with outreach events like farmers market and things like that. And just one more thing I'm going to tell you about. So Malavika mentioned Library Card Sign-Up Month, which is this month. So we are celebrating that. Everyone wants to take a passport. So this is something that my staff came up with. We're collaborating with local businesses. And if you show your library card at the business, they will they'll give you a discount or a deal, whatever is listed in our little passport. If you take the passport with you, they'll stamp it, and then you can turn it in at the end of the month, fill out the back, and then we have a little grand prize drawing, and the prize is in the back too. So if you don't have a card, please stop at the desk and get a card this month. Thank you.
My book club meets tonight. Can I take a bunch of these?
You can. And if you need more, stop at the desk.
That's something like this.
Yeah, we've done it for a few, yeah.
And so my wife and I went out one day, drove from here to Eldridge to DeWitt, stopped at the library, this thing, stamped.
Oh, right,
Went to
yes.
Clinton and then down to,
And you did them
down
all?
Princeton.
Oh, wow.
All of them except Bettendorf. Next day.
Okay, yeah.
So
Oh, that's
that's a
good.
nice part. It was fun. And we also went over to Rock Island and Moline. It was fun.
Yeah.
Staff, can you share with us
Yes.
some other really fun things your staff came up with for library card sign-up?
Yes, so we're basically trying to celebrate patrons getting library cards as well as using their cards. So if you sign up for a brand new card, we're giving away gifts, like we have a basket that people can choose things, something out of there. We're just kind of randomly celebrating people using our self-checks and we give them candy. That's something that we're doing. We're going out, we're partnering with Outreach, going to Hy-Vee a couple of times, and a couple other events that we're just trying to promote all the resources that we have at the library. We have a map out at each of our libraries for people to kind of show in general where they live in Davenport when they get a card, just to kind of show like how we're all connected in Davenport to the library.
Yeah, I want to commend you and your staff. This customer service program that you all provide is fantastic.
Yeah.
I've always had excellent experiences anytime I ask for help. Thank you.
I just used it today. Yes, from the library.
Oh, yes.
I couldn't do on my own.
Oh, yes.
Good.
Yes. We're hoping to get back to you being able to place your own holds if you want.
Yeah, I really like it.
Yes.
But they have looked just fine.
Good.
But yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you. So
Thank you.
I don't have anything else on the agenda. So is there a motion to adjourn? Second? Motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
Tim, I hear Rose is in charge of the matrix.